What was your biggest shit, no going back now moment? This one is quite literally a not going back moment. As a Boy Scout at summer camp, we would always take large group hikes on the last day of camp. This particular camp in West Texas was located in the middle of a deep canyon and cut through with a small stream. The day before our hike day it rained a bit, but not too much to make us worry. It was drizzling in the morning when we got up, but we were Boy Scouts, so that obviously didn't stop us. So our long hike had us cross the small stream up the canyon maybe 10 to 15 times. No problem. And everything went great. After a while we get to a medium-sized pond that we all decided to go swimming in. That was fun, and we all had a blast. We get out and dressed and we keep going farther up a hill to continue a hike. We get to the top and we hear this wonderfully ominous rushing noise. We look over a ledge and see that the water in the stream was moving a bit faster than we remembered. A friend and I volunteer to go back and see what's happened. A flash flood had ripped through the area we had just left moments before. The water in the pond was at least 7 feet higher than it was 5 minutes before, and it was covered in foam and rapidly overflowing. We decided as a group to test our luck and go back to see if we could get out. But the last stream crossing had turned into a very fast moving river crossing. Needless to say, we were ducked. We literally couldn't go back, and we had to wait a long time to get help and get to the now almost flooded camp. Happened to a friend of mine in Filmont. He went to the bathroom and had to cross a small stream to get there. The sky opened up for a few minutes and he still hadn't come back. We heard yelling a little later and he was stuck because that small stream had quadrupled in size and was now a raging river. If you went to Filmont and didn't have a close call, did you actually go to Filmont? When I was younger, letting my older cousin talk me into a canoe ride down a flooded river. We'd planned it days in advance, but there was a lot of heavy rain in the area and the normally calm river was near flood level and quite rough. I really didn't want to do it, but I didn't want to let him down either, so I still went. I knew as soon as we saw the river this was a terrible idea. The whole thing was a shit show, and I honestly, though we were going to die, we had no control, and at one point we got stuck nose down and a large rock. Knowing if we tipped out we were drowning, we somehow made it out and to the shore where we walked back with the canoe. Rule number 1 with any kind of paddle/unpowered water sport: if you have any doubts, stop. Even in a shallow river, that thing flips and conks you on the head. You drown. Wear your PFD and follow your gut. Edit, because others have more effectively reworded it. #IF and doubt. Don't geo out. Honestly, I went on a canoe trip with an ASD/AD summer camp a few years back, and the rain took the class to rapids up to 323. 5 or whatever, and we weren't even supposed to go over them anyway. Every single canoe flipped but me and my partners, but we took on so much water from the splashing that it straight up sunk. Spent the next 2 hours swimming up and downstream trying to catch all the gear that spilled. Water ain't no joke. Refusing to serve a customer for the first time ever. It may seem small, but it felt like a big win. I work at a cafe and a woman very rudely asked me for a 16 ounces hot coffee. We don't offer that, we just make pour overs. Yeah, we're an expensive bougie shop, and I tried to kindly explain to her why, but told her I could make her 2 coffees if she likes, as long as I stick with the recipe. She demanded I change the recipe. I said no, I can't. She spotted a 16 ounce cup behind me and asked what's that. Things were already very tense, and I grabbed the cup and explained this is 16 ounce cup, but it's only for cold brew. It looks similar to the hot cups, but this one is compostable, made from sugar cane, and will melt if hot liquid is poured into it. She grabbed it out of my hand and demanded I made her 2 coffees and pour them into the cup. I said I can't do that. The cup will melt. She told me she would do it herself, which also wouldn't work because she would have 24 ounces of coffee for a 16 ounce cup. At this point other customers were in there giving me the "oh shit's crazy. I'm sorry you're dealing with this sympathetic guy. I knew if she poured the coffee into that cup and burned herself we would have a bigger issue." I said I can't do that. "I'm sorry." She demanded I make it again, saying "you will make me 2 coffees." She spoke to me so horribly and condescendingly. There was never a please. She spoke to me like a servant. and she was creating a safety hazard. I took a long pause and looked her right in the eye and said, "I'm sorry. I can't let you speak to me that way, and I won't serve you." She was shocked. She was appalled. The cafe was silent. My coworker came out from the back, and the customer held her card out to her and said, "She won't help me, so you will. I'll have 2 coffees." And my coworker looked at her and said, "I don't know what's happening because I just got here, but I trust my coworker, so I'm sorry, but I won't serve you." It was so cool. Yes, the woman yelled at us, berated us, mocked my voice, claimed I called her abusive, screamed that we were wrong, demanded our names and corporate's contact. I stayed so calm the entire time. Once she left, multiple regulars and customers offered to back me up if I needed support explaining the situation to my manager. I've worked at my company for years and am consistent and trusted. I called my boss immediately and explained the situation. They received an angry voicemail within minutes and stood by me and my coworker. Send a generic "sorry about your experience" email, but not offering her any compensation. It was seriously one of the best feelings. I stood my ground when in the past I have crumbled or allowed myself to be treated poorly in these types of situations. I asked for the respect I deserve as a human being, and my coworkers and bosses supported me. Try it out sometime. It rules. Edited, broken up into easier to follow paragraphs. And thanks for the Yas Queen award. These upvotes made my day. Stepping off that sandbar I could barely reach to swim out to the girl, caught in a riptide. And not knowing how a riptide worked, it took what felt like hours, but spoiler alert, we made it. Too early in the season for lifeguards. I remember calling out to people walking their dogs on the beach, but we were so far out they didn't even look towards us. I'm sure she is eternally grateful that you took that step. Don't know. She was a friend of a friend and I barely knew her. When I was about to get on the plane to my first semester of med school, my dad, never one for sentiment, said, "Well, you're now actually worth more dead than alive. Don't screw this up." The feeling when the plane takes off, knowing there's no turning back. It all depends on you. A scary feeling that is. True, in my time impersonating a pilot, that was usually the most unnerving feeling. While motorcycling through Vietnam, it was getting late, and I was running low on fuel, too low to turn back to the previous town. If that wasn't bad enough, my bike rack broke. Luckily, a kind man and his daughter stopped to help. He knew no English outside of "I can fix," so I followed him. I wore my bags and held the rest in my lap. Entering the town, my jaw dropped. It was complete calamity. The streets were filled with people carrying 2x4s, rocks and bottles. Literally hundreds of people. It was like a war zone, with people smashing scooters and cars on fire. People yelling and fighting. A few individuals were running for their lives with mobs intel. I can still vividly see one man's face as he looked over his shoulder and read, "There were too many people to drive through." So I had to slow down to a crawl. All I kept thinking was, "Please don't notice me. Please don't rob me and smash my face in. Please know I'm with this kind man and his daughter." The moment lengthened as a few of the town folk started to notice me. I was scared shitless, but produced a warm smile. The smile wasn't returned. The kind man looked back, and those who were taking interest in me noticed. Can't help but think it helped. We finally breached the throng of people and pulled down an alleyway to his place. I still didn't feel safe, but I needed gas and my rack fixed. I tried to ask the man why all these people were fighting one another. He just smiled and made the drink gesture. It was during Tet, or the Vietnamese New Year. He fixed my rack, gave me some gas, and wouldn't take any money as payment. However, like Christmas, the kids receive money, so I gave his daughter a fat wad of cash. With his blessing, about 45 minutes later I arrived safely at my hostel in Nirvana. Just so everyone knows, the Vietnamese people are some of the warmest and kindest people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. So helpful, so caring, so giving without expecting anything in return. When I shared this story with other Vietnamese friends I made, they said I was never really in danger. It was some town uprising, but travelers are rarely ever hurt or attacked. At worst, you might get scammed for some money. Also, Vietnam is one of the best countries to travel for a million reasons. During takeoff on my first ever flight at the age of 30, I have a real intense fear of heights. It's funny, I've recently, over the last 10 years or so, developed a fear of heights. It really only applies on balconies or tall bridges, but in an airplane it's like I don't care. It's weird. I hate look over edges. So maybe I have a fear of falling more than heights. Like looking out a plane window is fine, but if my head's against the glass it's not. Parachute jump. My life is now no longer in my hands. Oh well. Geronimo. First time I went skydiving was a tandem jump, and the guy told me on the ground once we get in the door we'll rock back and forth 3 times. On the 3rd time forward just roll out the door. So, me being the trusting sort thought that was a solid plan. We get up to altitude, open the door. I put my feet on the little platform and cross my arms, just like he told me to. The ducker rocked back once and pushed us out the door immediately. My only thought was that wasn't 3. Oh duck, we are falling. Psychedelics. Particularly DMT because it all happened so quickly and intensely. Salvia. Never again. Only lasts 5 minutes. But holy shit does it feel like an eternity. It's like your entire reality gets smashed into thousands of pieces and you're desperately trying to piece it back together. Or getting thrust into the space between the multiverses and you're trying to figure out which one you belong in again. Having your consciousness merged with a red Solo cup on the dresser is the kind of experience a man needs no more than one of in his life. I love reading Salvia trip reports. Walking into a MMA fight and the cage closes behind you. How did it go? Pretty okay, I would say. I got punched in the face a lot, but subbed my opponent with an armbar. It was just an amateur level fight, but you learn a lot even there. Like you don't really hear your coach, you are way too consumed by what's going on, at least in the first few fights. Also, you can't really improvise, so a game plan is pretty important, because you will just revert to the basics you practiced. Also, you get ducking tired as duck. Just stuff you don't really understand if you're never in a fight. Getting in the ambulance after suffering a grand mal seizure from alcohol withdrawals. When I finally said enough is enough and decided I needed to quit drinking before it killed me, I thought I could detox on my own as I was terrified of hospitals. I was wrong. I spent a week detoxing in the ICU, and now, almost a full year later, I'm still very happily sober and I'm completely thriving. I've witnessed 2 friends seize from alcohol withdrawals. It's crazy. One of my friends fell back into alcohol and nearly died from liver failure. Through some sort of a miracle he survived and is doing well. I can remember having what was supposed to be our last conversation on the phone. He wasn't supposed to make it through the weekend. Good job. I'm happy for you. How much does someone have to drink to have withdrawals? Curious. Mountain biking with some friends on a new trail, which wasn't even a bike trail. We hiked most of the way up, since it was too steep to ride up. Carried our bikes all the way up, rested at the top for a bit, and then rolled over the edge. I remember as my front tire crested and gravity started taking over, I thought, there's no way I'm stopping now, unless a tree stops me. Edit. Wow, this really blew up. Rock on. Who all wants to get a group ride going? I know a similar feeling. I was mountain biking too, and out of some really dumb instinct I pulled the front brake way too hard. It wasn't my bike, so I didn't know it well. Luckily I didn't break anything, but when I started taking off it was a really bad feeling. Classic OTD moment. Canoeing over a waterfall. First time I did a waterfall I thought I was gonna die. I'd been whitewater kayaking for over a year. Had all my safety trained friends there with me. Yet that feeling of going over and looking down at the hole just made me go, yep, I've gone too far. Wait, what? How big of a waterfall can you canoe into without dying? Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more daily Reddit videos.